Good morning student. Previous class I discussed about the factors affecting to the equilibrium constant. Also I discussed about different types of equilibrium constant, and also I discussed some problem related to the different types of equilibrium constant. Now I am going to discuss an important problem related to the equilibrium constant. Calculate the equilibrium constant for the reaction CO2 gas plus H2 gas gives the H2O gas plus CO gas at 1395 Kelvin. If the equilibrium constant at 1395 Kelvin for the following reaction. First reaction is 2H2O gas gives a 2H2 gas plus O2 gas. K1 equal to 1.4 into 10 to the minus 12. Second equation is 2CO2 gas gives a 2CO gas plus O2 gas. K2 equal to 5.6 into 10 to the minus 12. In this problem there are three equations are given. For these three equations we can derive an expression for the equilibrium constant. At first I will take this equation. 2H2O gas gives the 2H2 gas plus O2 gas. For this equation I can write the K1 equal to molar concentration of H2 power 2 into molar concentration of O2 divided by molar concentration of H2O power 2. For this reaction the equilibrium constant K1 is given, so here I can write 1.4 into 10 to the minus 12. Again another reaction is given, that is your 2CO2 gas gives a 2CO gas plus O2 gas. For this reaction I can write K2 equal to molar concentration of CO power 2 into molar concentration of O2 divided by molar concentration of CO2 power 2. For this reaction K2 is given, K2 equal to 5.6 into 10 to the minus 12. So here I can write 5.6 into 10 to the minus 12. This is your suppose equation 1, this is your suppose equation 2. Again another equation is given, that is your CO2 gas plus H2 gas gives a water gas plus CO gas. For this reaction I can write K. Our aim to find out the value of K. For this reaction I can write K equal to molar concentration of H2O into molar concentration of CO divided by molar concentration of CO2 into molar concentration of H2. From 1 and 2 I can write K2 by K1 equal to molar concentration of CO power 2 into molar concentration of O2 divided by molar concentration of CO2 power 2 whole divided by molar concentration of H2 power 2 into molar concentration of O2 divided by molar concentration of H2O power 2. After solving I can write K2 by K1 equal to molar concentration of H2O power 2 into molar concentration of CO power 2 divided by molar concentration of CO2 power 2 into molar concentration of H2 power 2. Look at that, here the value of K is equal to this value. So here I can write K2 by K1 equal to K square Here I can write from equation 3. I have to find out the value of k. So here I can write k equal to root over of k2 by k1. We know that the value of k1 equal to 1.4 into 10 to the minus 12. The value of k2 equal to 5.6 into 10 to the minus 12. Now put the value of k1 and k2 in this equation. Then I can write k equal to root over of 5.6 into 10 to the minus 12 divided by 1.4 into 10 to the minus 12. After solving, I can write k equal to root over of 4, which is equal to 2. In our question, find out the equilibrium constant. So the equilibrium constant is 2. Next, I want to explain an important long question, that is Lee-Chatelier principle. It is also called laws of mobile equilibrium. What is the statement of Lee-Chatelier principle? According to the statement of Lee-Chatelier principle, if a system in equilibrium is subjected to a change of concentration, pressure or temperature, then the equilibrium shift in the direction that tends to reduce the effect of change. Again I will repeat, if a system in equilibrium is subjected to change of concentration, pressure or temperature, then the equilibrium shifts in that direction that which we can reduce the effect of change. Suppose take a reaction A plus BB gives a CC plus DD. Suppose this reaction is present at equilibrium. That means we think that the property like concentration, pressure or temperature do not undergo change. Suppose I want to change the property like concentration or pressure or temperature for this reaction, then what will happen? The equilibrium will be shift. The equilibrium shift in such a direction that in which direction the effect of concentration or pressure or temperature must be reduced. That means equilibrium shift in forward direction or backward direction, that decided by the effect of temperature or pressure or concentration. Let me explain about effect of temperature. Generally we know that there are two types of reaction. One is exothermic reaction, another is endothermic reaction. The reaction in which heat is released, that type of reaction is generally called exothermic reaction. The reaction in which heat is absorbed, then such type of reaction is called endothermic reaction. Let us take an exothermic reaction. N2 plus H2 gives the 2NH3. Here the amount of heat released is 22.8 kilocalorie. So here I can write plus 22.8 kilocalorie. Similarly, take another example for endothermic reaction. N2 plus O2 gives the 2NO. In this reaction, the amount of heat absorbed by the reactant is 42.8 kilocalorie. So here I can write minus 42.8 kilocalorie. This is an example of exothermic reaction. This is an example of endothermic reaction. Now I want to explain these two reactions by the help of effect of temperature. That means if I will change the temperature of these two reactions, then what will happen about the direction of equilibrium? Whether the equilibrium shift in forward direction or backward direction, this is decided by the help of Le Chatelier principle. According to the Le Chatelier principle, for an exothermic reversible reaction, an increase in temperature shift the equilibrium in backward direction and vice versa. Vice versa means decrease in temperature shift the direction of equilibrium in forward direction. Remember, an increase in temperature shift the equilibrium in backward direction, while an decrease in temperature shift the equilibrium in forward direction. This is only for the exothermic reaction. Look at that. This is an exothermic reaction. Suppose I want to increase the temperature for this reaction. Then what will happen? The reaction proceed in backward direction. That means on increase of temperature for this reaction, the amount of formation of nitrogen and hydrogen goes on increases. On the other hand, the amount of NH3 goes on decreases. If I will decrease the temperature for this reaction, then what will happen? The reaction proceed in forward direction, that means the equilibrium proceed in forward direction, which clearly indicate that more amount of NH3 will be formed. On the other hand, the amount of nitrogen and hydrogen goes on decreases. Now I want to explain about this reaction. What is the effect of temperature on this reaction? If I will increase the temperature, then according to the Le Chatelier principle, the reaction proceed in forward direction. That means by the help of increase of temperature, the amount of NO goes on increases. On the other hand, the amount of nitrogen and oxygen goes on decreases. If I will decrease the temperature, then according to Le Chatelier principle, the reaction proceed in backward direction. That means the equilibrium shift in backward direction. As a result, more amount of nitrogen and oxygen will be produced. On the other hand, the amount of NO goes on decreases. Finally, I can conclude that for exothermic reaction, increase in temperature shift the equilibrium in backward direction. On the other hand, decrease in temperature shift the equilibrium in forward direction. Similarly, for endothermic reaction, increase in temperature shift the equilibrium in forward direction. Similarly, I can write for endothermic reaction, decrease in temperature shift the equilibrium in backward direction. By applying this concept, we can able to predict whether the reaction is proceeding forward direction or backward direction. For remembering such type of concept, generally we use a daily life example. Generally, in summer season we generally want to drink the cold drinks, but in winter season we generally want to drink the hot tea. Remember, for summer season generally we think about the exothermic reaction. For winter season we generally think about the endothermic reaction. That means for exothermic reaction we generally want to decrease of temperature. Cold drinks means decrease of temperature. Hot tea means increase of temperature. So remember, for exothermic reaction we generally think about the decrease of temperature. On the other hand, for endothermic reaction we generally think about the increase of temperature. For the forward reaction, remember, for forward reaction, in case of exothermic reaction we generally think about the decrease of temperature, but in case of endothermic reaction we generally think about the increase of temperature. At first, identify whether the reaction belongs to exothermic reaction or endothermic reaction. After deciding the reaction whether it is endothermic or exothermic reaction, we can able to apply this concept. By applying this concept, we can able to decide whether we need the forward reaction or backward reaction. If I need the forward reaction, then obviously I can change the temperature according to the Le Chatelier principle. This is all about the effect of temperature. According to this principle, if N1 equal to N2, then the change of pressure has no effect on equilibrium. Let us take an example. H2 plus I2 gives a 2Hi. In this reaction, N1 equal to N2. For this reaction, the change of pressure has no effect on the equilibrium. That means for the formation of Hi, an increase or decrease in pressure cannot affect. Similarly, we can also think about the formation of H2 and I2. According to this principle, if N1 greater than N2, then an increase in pressure shift the equilibrium in forward direction. Take an example. N2 plus 3H2 gives a 2NH3. In this case, N1 equal to 1 plus 3, N2 equal to 2. That means here I can write N1 greater than N2. For such type of reaction, an increase in pressure shift the equilibrium in forward direction. That means for the formation of NH3, an increase in pressure is favorable condition. Similarly, according to this principle, if N1 smaller than N2, then a decrease in pressure shift the equilibrium in forward direction. Let me explain to this point by the help of an example. N2O4 gives the 2NO2. In this reaction, N1 equal to 1, N2 equal to 2. That means here I can write N1 smaller than N2. So when we decrease the pressure, then the reaction proceeds in forward direction. That means for the formation of NO2, a decrease in pressure is favorable. Finally, we concluded that an increase in pressure shift the equilibrium in a direction in which less number of gaseous molecules are present. Similarly, I can write a decrease in pressure shift the equilibrium in a direction in which more number of gaseous molecules are present. Next point, if the number of moles of reactants and products are equal, then the change of pressure has no effect. This is all about the effect of pressure. Next, I want to explain about the effect of concentration. According to this principle, an increase in concentration of the reactant shift the equilibrium in forward direction. Take an example, N2 plus 3H2 gives a 2NH3. If I will increase the concentration of the reactant, obviously more amount of product is formed. That means we think that the reaction proceeds in the forward direction. So for this reaction, if I want to need more and more amount of ammonia, then it is bound to increase the concentration of N2 or H2, or increase both the concentration of N2 and H2. Remember again, for the formation of NH3, we need a forward reaction. For the forward reaction, we generally increase the concentration of the reactant. Similarly, according to this principle, an increase in the concentration of the product side shift the equilibrium in the backward direction. Let us take an example. H2 plus I2 gives a 2Hi. If I will increase the concentration of the product, that is the Hi, then obviously more and more amount of hydrogen and iodine is formed. That means the reaction proceeds in the backward direction. So remember, for the formation of H2 and I2, an increase in concentration of Hi is favorable. From this example, it is concluded that increase in concentration of any one of the reactant shift the equilibrium in forward direction. Similarly, decrease in concentration of any one of the reactant shift the equilibrium in backward direction. Similarly, increase in concentration of any one of the product shift the equilibrium in backward direction. Similarly, decrease in concentration of any one of the product shift the equilibrium in forward direction. This is all about the effect of concentration. Next, I want to explain about the effect of inert gas. There are two conditions. Condition 1 is addition of inert gas at a constant volume. Constant volume means we can write del V equal to 0. Another condition is addition of inert gas at a constant pressure, that is del P equal to 0. Remember, when an inert gas is added to the equilibrium system at constant volume, then what will happen? Then the total pressure will increases. Again I will repeat, when an inert gas is added to the equilibrium system at constant volume, then the total pressure will increases. But remember, the concentration of the reactant and product will not change. Hence, under these conditions, there will be no effect in equilibrium. That means addition of inert gas at constant volume have no effect on the direction of equilibrium. Next, I want to think about the addition of inert gas at constant pressure. When an inert gas is added to the equilibrium system at constant pressure, then the volume will increase. As a result, the number of moles per unit volume of various reactants and product will decrease, because the concentration depends upon the number of mole and volume. That means C equal to N by V. If the volume increases, then the concentration decreases. If the volume decreases, then the concentration increases. Hence, the equilibrium will shift in a direction in which there is a more number of moles of gases are present. Next, I want to explain about the effect of addition of catalyst. The catalyst does not shift the equilibrium in any direction. That means the catalyst has no responsible whether the reaction proceeds in forward direction or backward direction. But remember, the catalyst help in the attainment of equilibrium quickly. That means by the help of catalyst and reaction attain the equilibrium quickly, but the catalyst does not shift the equilibrium in any direction. This is because the catalyst favors the rate of forward and backward reaction equally. That means for the rate of forward reaction, the catalyst has same responsible like the rate of backward reaction. The catalyst play an equal role for the rate of forward reaction and rate of backward reaction. Next, I want to explain about the application of Lee-Jacquier principle. First application is formation of ammonia by Haber's process. According to the Haber's process, the required reaction is N2 plus 3H2 gives 2NH3. This reaction is done by the help of catalyst iron and another element which acts as a promoter, that is your molybdenum. Here iron acts as a catalyst, molybdenum acts as a promoter. This reaction is carried out at 500 degrees centigrade. This reaction also carried out at a pressure of 200 to 900 atm. In this reaction, 22.8 kilocalorie energy is released. This is the reaction which is related to the Haber's process. Next, I want to explain explain about the conditions for better yields of ammonia. For the yield of ammonia, generally we need the forward reaction. For this reaction, what are the conditions? First condition, low temperature, that is optimum low temperature. The temperature is below 500 degree centigrade, as it is an exothermic reaction. Look at that, this is an exothermic reaction, so the temperature must be low. That means the temperature must be maintained below 500 degree centigrade. Next condition, high pressure, that is optimum high pressure, as the number of reactant molecule is greater than the number of product molecule. Next condition, an increase in concentration of N2 and or H2 or decrease of concentration of NH3 is more favorable for the better yield of ammonia. These are the conditions for the better yield of NH3. Next application is, what are the conditions for better yield of HI? For the better yield of HI, we follow some condition. The reaction is H2 plus I2 gives 2HI. Here the temperature is 450 degree centigrade. This is an endothermic reaction. Here del H equal to 12.6 kilocalorie. What are the conditions for the better yield of HI? For the better yield of HI, we generally follow the forward reaction. For the forward reaction, we generally need high temperature because this reaction belongs to an endothermic reaction. Second condition, look at that, here N1 equal to N2. So the pressure has no effect on this reaction. Third condition, an increase in concentration of H2 and or I2 is more favorable for the better yield of HI. These are the conditions for the better yield of HI. Take another example. What are the conditions for better yields of NO2? NO2 related to the dissociation of nitrogen tetroxide. That means I can write the reaction like this: N2O4 gives 2NO2. This is an endothermic reaction. The amount of heat absorbed is 58.6 kilojoule. Since this is an endothermic reaction, so we need high temperature for the better yield of NO2. Here N1 smaller than N2. For the formation of NO2, we generally need low pressure. Third condition is, by increasing the concentration of N2O4, we generally able to form more amount of NO2. These are the conditions for better yield of NO2. Next, I want to explain about the heterogeneous equilibria for the dissociation of calcium carbonate and ammonium bisulfide. At first, I will discuss about the dissociation of calcium carbonate. When calcium carbonate undergoes dissociation, then it gives calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. This is your present in solid form. This is present in in gaseous form. Again I will repeat, when calcium carbonate undergoes dissociation by heating, then calcium oxide and carbon dioxide is formed. If the evolved carbon dioxide gas is removed from the reaction mixture, then the reaction will continue to proceed in forward direction and CO will be continuously formed till whole calcium carbonate is decomposed. That means for the formation of calcium oxide, we generally need a forward reaction. For the forward reaction, it is bound to decrease the amount of calcium oxide or amount of carbon dioxide. Look at that here, calcium oxide is a solid, on the other hand carbon dioxide is a gas. We know that a gas is easily removed from the reaction mixture as compared to the solid. So for the formation of calcium oxide more and more, it is bound to remove the carbon dioxide from the reaction mixture. So remember, the calcium oxide will be continuously formed till whole calcium carbonate is decomposed. Next, I want to explain about the dissociation of ammonium bisulfite. The dissociation of ammonium hydrogen sulfide, that is your ammonium bisulfite, results in the formation of ammonia and hydrogen sulfide gas. I can write the reaction like this: NH4HS solid gives NH3 gas plus H2S gas. Out of ammonia gas and hydrogen sulfide gas, ammonia can be easily liquefied. Thus, ammonia is continuously removed from the reaction mixture and the forward reaction will continue to take place till whole ammonium hydrogen sulfide is decomposed. This is all about for this class. Thank you. Have a nice day.